No solo no voy a hacer negocios con China, no voy a hacer negocios con ningún comunista.
We do not make pacts with communists.
So what would you do? In other words, would you stop Argentina's relations with China?
I would not promote relations with communists, whether it's Cuba, Venezuela, North Korea, Nicaragua, or China.
Remember Javier Milei, the man who promised to never deal with communists and pledged his soul to Washington? Well, as of August 6, 2026, he just signed a 5-year extension on a 19 billion lifeline with, you guessed it, the People's Bank of China. Despite months of heavy pressure from the US to break ties, Argentina just proved that in the real world, ideology doesn't pay the bills. But guess what? China does. Is this a betrayal of his base or just a masterclass in economic survival? Let's get into it. Argentina has been teetering on the edge of economic collapse for years, battling triple-digit inflation and a desperate need for foreign reserves. For a long time, the currency swap with China was the only thing keeping the lights on. When Milei took office, Washington thought they had their man, a leader who would finally kick China out of South America. But as the August 6th deadline approached, the pressure from the US reached a fever pitch. Washington wanted Argentina to walk away from the 130 billion yuan deal, even if it meant risking a total financial meltdown. In this video, we're going to be breaking down the big renewal, why Milei brushed off Washington's warnings and signed a deal that lasts till 2031. We look at the specific numbers that makes this a vital financial buffer for the Milei administration and why this pragmatic shift is sending shockwaves through the halls of power in DC. By the end, you'll understand why even the most pro-US leaders in the global south are finding it impossible to ignore the China factor. We have a lot to cover. First, we'll look at the 5-year extension and why the cycle is longer than any previous deal. Then we'll dive into the 19 billion scale and how many trillions of pesos are we actually talking about. We'll also relieve the debt paydown and wait till you hear how much Argentina has already cleared to make this new deal happen. And finally, the big question, and did Washington just lose its most important ally in the region to a yuan-denominated lifeline? The People's Bank of China and the Central Bank of Argentina have officially renewed their currency swap for 130 billion yuan, equivalent to roughly 19 billion or a staggering 28 trillion pesos. Sources close to the Central Bank of Argentina indicated that the Milei administration spends months trying to find a Western alternative to this swap. They looked at the IMF, they looked at private lenders, and they looked at Washington. The result? No one else was willing to offer a $19 billion buffer with these terms. The pragmatic shift wasn't a choice, it was a mathematical necessity. Reports from SCMP and the Star confirmed that Washington exerted long-standing pressure on Buenos Aires to curb its ties with Beijing. The US had been increasingly vocal about Chinese influence in South America, but when it came down to the wire, they couldn't provide the financial security Argentina needed to walk away. Look, it's almost too funny to watch. Washington spends all day lecturing Argentina about the dangers of Chinese debt, but when the bill comes due, they're nowhere to be found. It's like a friend telling you to quit your job because the boss is mean, but then refusing to lend you the rent money. Milei might love the US flag, but he's not stupid. He knows that 19 billion in yuan is worth more than 1,000 attaboys from the US State Department. Beijing is the only one acting as a reliable lender of last resort here. And Milei's pragmatism is just code for I'd rather have reserves than a pat on the back from DC. Anyways, this renewal isn't just about Argentina, it's a signal to the entire global south. By extending the term till 2031, a 5-year cycle instead of the usual 3, China is providing a level of long-term stability that the US simply isn't matching. Look, I predict that we're going to see more Milei style pivots in the coming years. Leaders who talk tough on China for the cameras will continue to sign UN denominated deals behind closed doors. Why, you ask? Because the UN is becoming the default insurance policy for developing nations. Even if a self proclaimed anarcho capitalist like Milei can't quit the UN, why would anyone else? Washington is losing the financial war because they're still fighting with ideological weapons. Anyways, guys, if you want to stay updated on how the global south is changing, please make sure to like and subscribe to Impulse Reports. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.